Very, very good morning to all of you guys. Welcome back. In the last session, we finished service costing. I hope you guys were able to solve all the questions of study material and the past practice manual. I do suggest you guys to solve past examination questions also for the service costing. I have covered all the questions in detail, so I don't think there must be any queries or something like that. So I'm good, Dhyanesh. Okay, Alok, let me check whether your answer is correct or not. So now, without wasting time, let's proceed further with the next part of the syllabus, wherein we'll be discussing management accounting now. So let's start with altogether a new chapter, that is standard costing. As I told you guys, now this is a part of management accounting. So this standard costing chapter has nothing to do with cost calculation. This standard costing is a management tool for decision making. It assists management in decision making. It has nothing to do with cost calculation. It is a management tool for decision making. It assists management in decision making. Very good, Saraboni. Let me check. Very good, Jyoti. Let me check. I have to check whether your answers are correct or not. Let me complete this part first and then we'll check your answers. Now, so as I was discussing standard costing, so this chapter is a part of management accounting. It has nothing to do with cost calculation. It's a management tool for decision making. It assists management in decision making. स्टैंडर्ड कॉस्टिंग को हम लोग वेरिएंस एनालिसिस भी बोलते हैं. Now, what is standard costing? How it assists management in decision making? Now, see, every company do set up benchmark targets or standards at the beginning of the year. I repeat again, guys, every company do set up the benchmark target or standards at the beginning of the year. And when the actual results are out, they do compare these actual results with the target set. Actual results, when the actual results are out, they do compare these target set with the actual results. So actual results may differ from the target set. So the difference between the actual results and the target set is called as variances. And why this variances? Who are the person or what are the reason behind these variances? That also standard costing technique help us to figure out. So standard costing को हम लोग variance analysis भी बोल सकते हैं. What standard company help us to figure out? First, it help us to calculate the variances. That गलती कितना गलती हुआ है. It help us to calculate first of all the variances. Now, what are the reason behind these variances? That also standard costing technique help us to figure out. Very good morning, Prachi Kapoor. So everyone, guys, we are starting with standard costing. Those who have joined a bit late, this chapter has nothing to do with calculation of cost. It's a part of management accounting and it assists management in decision making. When talking about what we'll be discussing in this chapter, standard costing is also called as variance analysis, wherein in this chapter, we will be first calculating the variances, that is the difference between the target set and the actual results. And thereafter, we will be analyzing that why these variances, what are the reasons behind this variance. So let's say I do manufacture 10,000 units. Let's say I do manufacture 10,000 units and I have set up a target that these 10,000 units will be manufactured using 20,000 kgs of raw material. मैंने टारगेट सेट किया है कि these 10,000 units will be manufactured using 20,000 kgs of raw material. It means what? Each unit will require 2 units of raw material. Now, when the actual results were out, these 10,000 units were manufactured using 22,000 kgs of raw material. When the actual results were out, these 10,000 units were manufactured using 22,000 kgs of raw material. So now there is a difference of how much? 2,000 kgs of raw material. So this is variance. Now, since we have consumed more material, that is, our target cost or actual cost is more than target cost, so we call it as adverse for the company. Why? Because our actual cost, these are my actual results. And these are my targets or standards. So I have set up a benchmark or target that these 10,000 units will be manufactured using 20,000 kgs of raw material. However, when the actual results were out, we actually consumed 22,000 kgs of raw material. It means what? My actual raw material consumed is much more than what I expected. So these 2,000 kgs is what? Adverse for the company. So this is what we call as variance. That is the difference between the target set and the actual result. Let's take one more point. Let's say I thought these 10,000 units will be manufactured using 50,000 labor hours. These 10,000 units will be manufactured using 50,000 labor hours. Now, when the actual results were out, these 10,000 units were manufactured using only 48,000 labor hours. It means what? My workers worked efficiently. They finished the work before time. It means there is a saving in cost. Of how many hours? 2,000 labor hours. So we call it as favorable. So in simple terms, when there is a saving in cost, we can say it is favorable. And further, when the actual cost exceeds the target cost or standard cost, we call it as adverse. Similarly, let's say I have set up a target wherein overall overheads we targeted that we will be incurring overall overheads of rupees 10 lakh. These 10,000 units will be manufactured by incurring 10 lakh rupees as overhead. However, when the actual results were out, I spent 10 lakh 50,000. My actual overhead were 10 lakh 50,000. These are my actual overhead. So again what? There is a difference between the target set and the actual result. So again, there is a difference of how much? 50,000. Since the actual cost is more than target cost, so we call it as adverse for the company. So what we do in standard costing, I repeat again, very simple guys, that first we calculate the variances. So हम लोगों ने variance calculate कर दिए हैं. Now we'll be making the analysis of variances. That is, what are the reason behind this variances that we'll be discussing in this chapter. If you guys have any conceptual queries in relation to the meaning of standard costing, what we'll be doing in standard costing, you guys can please post your queries. In the meanwhile, I suggest you guys to please copy this part. So when talking about the target set, these are predicted by or estimated by the management that this much raw material will be required, this much labor hours will be required to manufacture so and so unit. So depending upon the past data and past experiences, management do set up the targets. And yes, when the actual results are out, they do compare these targets set with the actual results. No worries, Vinodini. Now, let me give you a brief what all we'll be discussing in this chapter. Now, let's say I'm the owner of a company. I'm the only owner of a manufacturing unit. Now, what I am most concerned about? Very simple, guys, profit. At the end of the day, my object is what? To earn profit. Now, I have provided ample amount of resources to my employees. I have put up some funds, plus I have provided ample amount of resources. And according to the market trend, I have set up a target that at least I should earn a profit of rupees 5 lakh. I thought that at least I should earn, I have targeted a profit of rupees 5 lakh because I have provided ample amount of resources to my staff. Now, this is what my target profit. However, when the actual results were out, my actual profit was only 3 lakh. When the actual results were out, my actual profit was only 3 lakh. This is my desired profit and this is my actual profit. So my actual profit was only 3 lakh. So there is a variance of rupees 2 lakh. And since it is not favorable to me, so we will write it as adverse for my company. This 2 lakh variance is what? Adverse for me because I have targeted a profit of rupees 5 lakh. However, when the actual results were out, my actual profit was rupees 3 lakh only. So there is a variance, there is a difference of what? 2 lakh. And since it is not favorable to me, so that's why I will write as adverse. Now, I have to figure out that what is the difference, what are the reason for this difference of 2 lakh. अब मुझे पता लगाना है कि भाई मैंने टारगेट सेट किया था 5 लाख का, एक्चुअल प्रॉफिट आया मेरा 3 लाख की, मतलब 2 लाख का वेरिएंस आया. Now I have to figure out what are the reasons for this variances. what is the reason of this variance? Why this variance of rupees 2 lakh? Now guys, when talking about the calculation of profit, how profit is calculated? Very simple. Sales minus total cost. It means what? ये जो 2 लाख रुपीस का वेरिएंस आया है किस वजह से आया होगा? Either there is something going wrong in my sales department or there is something going wrong in my production department. इसी वजह से ये profit 2 लाख का difference आया होगा. So there are two reasons for this differences. First one is that either there is any change in sales department. Sales department में either they were not performed well, or second thing is what the total cost, or we can say it is production department, change in total cost or change in production department. There is due to change in sales or due to change in total cost. So these are the two factors from which the profit is calculated, and ये जो 2 लाख का जो difference आया है, this may be because of these two factors. So या तो sales department में गड़बड़ हुआ होगा या production department में गड़बड़ हुआ होगा. Further, when talking about the total cost also, as I told you guys, there are three major elements of cost. That is material, labor, and overheads. Further, we can classify the overheads in two parts, that is fixed and variable. Now the things are very much clear कि गड़बड़ या तो यहाँ पे हुई होगी या यहाँ पे होगी. When coming about the total cost, we can further distribute the total cost as material, labor, and overheads. Further, overheads can be reclassified in fixed or variable. Now, what I will do is I will have to investigate that even though I have provided ample amount of resources, there is an adverse variance in my company of rupees 2 lakh. That is, there is an adverse profit variance of rupees 2 lakh in my company. Now, what I will do is I'll carry out the investigation that who is the person responsible behind this variance. That is, there is a problem in sales department or my production department. Further, I have to figure out that कहीं material department में कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ है, or there is a fault of labor department, or further there are any flaws in my fixed overhead department, or something is going wrong in my variable overhead department. I have to figure out. So what I will do is I'll carry out the detailed investigation to check that किस डिपार्टमेंट में गड़बड़ हुआ है, उस वजह से ये जो वेरिएंस आया है रुपीस 2 लाख का एडवर्स आया. I hope this part is clear to all. So what we'll be doing is we'll be investigating each and every department. Start right from start, that is sales, material, labor, fixed overhead, and variable overhead, to figure out that who is the person responsible for this loss of rupees 2 lakh. So that is what we will be doing in standard costing. Now, from examination point of view or from IPCC point of view, this part is not covered in the syllabus. Only we have to discuss, only we have to investigate the material department, labor department, fixed overhead department, and variable overhead department. This part is covered in the finals. So that is all what we'll be discussing. That is the investigation of the material department, the investigation of the labor department, investigation of the fixed overhead department, and investigation of the variable overhead department. So these four departments will be investigating to figure out that who is the culprit. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. Any doubts? Prachi Kapoor, Shivani, Priyanka, Jyoti, Jash, Mitesh, Dhyanesh, Shivani, Sankaran. Any doubts, guys? Vinodini, any doubts? Thank you so much, Miss Sri Sai Srujana. So, what is standard costing? In simple terms, we can say that if there is anything going wrong in the system, then this standard costing help us to figure out that how much is the variances, that is how much is the differences. Second point, who is the person responsible, or what are the reasons for these deviations? That also standard costing technique help us to figure out. So now let's start with the investigation of the material department. Let's investigate that whether there is a fault of material department, or whether material department is contributing in this variance of rupees 2 lakh or not. So we'll be investigating each and every department one by one in a systematic way. So let's start, guys. One second. Manoj Kumar Thakur it's a cost control technique, not a cost reduction technique. It's a cost control technique, Manoj Kumar. Yes, Dhyanesh, you have to. Thank you so much, Srujana. It's very easy. It's more about concepts. So when talking about the utility or practical utility, Sushil Kumar Barik, every company uses this technique, standard costing. They do set up the target कि हम लोगों को इतना raw material use करना है, इतना labor use करना है, and at the end of the day, they do compare that whether there is any difference between the target set and the actual result. So where there are differences, they keep a detailed investigation. What they will do is, जहाँ पे भी differences पता चला, they do investigate into that point and try to figure out that can we rectify these mistakes or not. So they do identify the mistakes first, and then they do try to rectify this. No worries, Lokesh Kumar. Very good morning. So let's start, guys. Let's start with the investigation of material department. Yes, Mr. Aslam, only management accounting is left. So now let's start with the investigation of material department. Now there is a loss of rupees 2 lakh in my company. The loss in the sense that there is an adverse in profit variance of rupees 2 lakh. Now I have to figure out that who is the person responsible for this variance of rupees 2 lakh. So let's start with the investigation of material department. So let's say Mr. Dhyanesh is the head of material department. I called Mr. Dhyanesh that Dhyanesh, I think Dhyanesh, there is a loss of rupees 2 lakh, or there is an adverse profit variance of rupees 2 lakh. And I think your material department is contributing the maximum. Your material department is contributing the maximum. Now, Dhyanesh says, sir, just give me a day's time. I'll just calculate. I'll just figure out that whether my department is contributing to this loss of rupees 2 lakh or not. Now, what Dhyanesh has to do, we'll be discussing in this part. How Dhyanesh prepare the detailed report that whether there is anything going wrong in my department or not. How Dhyanesh will prepare the report, that we'll be discussing in material. So let's start, guys. Now, first and the foremost thing, what Dhyanesh will do? He will check that what are the targets set by the company. So when talking about the target set, let's say it is given. Let's say it is given clearly that the product we are manufacturing will be using two types of raw material, that is X and Y. The product we are manufacturing will be using two types of raw material, that is X and Y. We have to use 60 kgs of X and 40 kgs of Y. The total input is 100 units. The company has predicted well in advance that there will be a normal loss of 20% of input. So my output will be 80 units. So now Dhyanesh is well aware about that what are the targets set by company as far as units is concerned. For every 80 units of output, we have to make two types of input, that is X and Y. So one second guys, sorry. Vedant, I'll address your query later. So now Dhyanesh has figured out that whatever the many units we are manufacturing, wherein for every 80 units of output, we require two types of input, X and Y. We'll be using X as 60 units, Y as 40 units. My total input will be 100 units. My normal loss will be 20 units and my output will be 80 units. So this is what the target set by the company for every 80 unit. Now company ये कहीं पे भी नहीं कह रहे कि 80 units ही manufacture करने हैं. The company is saying that for every 80 units, this should be the composition. Further, the company has provided us the cost data also, wherein X will be purchased at the rate ₹5 per unit and Y will be purchased at the rate ₹4 per unit. So this is what the target set by the company. That is for every 80 units, this should be the composition. Company कहीं पे भी ये नहीं बोल रहा है कि 80 units will be only manufactured. The company has given the data for 80 units. So if the production will be 800 units, it means what? X will be used 600, Y will be used 400, my total input will be 1000, my normal loss will be 200, and my output will be 800. So this is the composition for every 80 units that is given by the manager. Now, when the actual results were out, so X was used 700 kgs, Y was used 300 kgs. My actual input was 1000 kgs. There was a normal loss of 300 units and my output was 700. Further, when talking about the actual price paid for purchase of X, it was ₹4 and for Y it was ₹5. So my total cost, actual cost for manufacturing these 700 units was how much? 2800 for X and 1500 for Y. 4300 is the total cost. So yes, it is in control of an enterprise, Dhyanesh. Don't worry, I'll be explaining this part also. So now the things are clear that this is what the target set by the management for every 80 units, and these are my actual results. wherein we actually manufactured 700 units using 700 kgs of X, 300 kgs of Y. My total input is of 1000 units, and there is a normal loss of 300 units, and this is how I'm getting an output of 700 units. Now, what Dhyanesh has to do, he has the actual data and he has the target data. Now, what he has to do, he has to compare these target set with the actual result to calculate the variances. So what he has to do, he has to compare these target set with the actual result, the target set with the actual results to calculate variances. He has to compare the target set with the actual results to calculate the variances. So now my point is, are these two figures comparable, yes or no? Can we say that 60 units use hona chahiye tha, 700 units use hua? So there is an adverse variance of 540 kgs. Sorry, 640 kgs. Is this correct or not? My point is, are these two figures comparable? क्या ये दोनों figure comparable है या नहीं है? Waiting for your answers, guys. Are these two figures comparable? क्या हम लोग ऐसा कह सकते हैं कि 60 units were supposed to be used, however we used 700 units? It means what? 640 kgs is what we call as adverse variance. Is it correct or not? Are these two figures comparable? Yes or no? Waiting for your answers, guys. Okay, I've got answer from Shivani, Dhyanesh, Aslam, Jyoti, Manoj Kumar Thakur, Nikita. All your answers are correct. Tejas, your answer is incorrect. Just Shah, correct answers. Raboni, correct answer. Miss Ansari, incorrect answer. Lokesh Kumar, yes, again incorrect answer. Anyone else, guys? Okay, Alok, yes, comparable. So let's see. Piyush, yes, comparable. Vedant, Bora, sir, not comparable. We have to take the price of 80 units out of 700 units. Now, guys, for the students who has answered yes, let me ask you guys a question. For the students who says that yes, it is comparable, let me put up a question in front of you. Let's say I do manufacture ice cream. And when talking about the target set, I do manufacture ice cream. And when talking about the target set, that 1 liter ice cream is to be prepared using 2 liters of milk. 1 liter of ice cream is to be prepared using 2 liters of milk. So this is my output and this is my input. So this is the target set by the management that for every piece of ice cream, we have to use 2 liters of the milk. Sushil Kumar. So this is the target set by the management that for every unit of ice cream, 1 unit of ice cream, we'll write it as 1 unit, we require 2 liters of milk. Now, when the actual results were out, we actually manufactured 10,000 units of ice cream. However, the milk that was consumed was 23,000 liters. So my point to the students who has answered yes, are these two figures comparable? That is, sir, 2 liter milk use करना था, हमने 23,000 liter milk use किया. So are these two figures comparable? Yes or no? For the students who has answered yes, are these two figures comparable? Yes, Sri Sai Srujna, I've got your answer. Yes, your answer is correct, my dear. To the students who has answered yes, this question is not for the students who has answered no. To the students who have answered yes, that is Alok Shivlani, Piyush Chaurasia, Lokesh Kumar, Miss Ansari. Are these two figures comparable? No. Now I have got the answers from few of you. So are these figures comparable? No. Why? Because sir, इधर 2 liter milk use हो रहा है तो 1 unit ही आइसक्रीम का बन रहा है. Herein, if we are using 23,000 liters of milk, we are getting an ice cream of 10,000 units. It means what? This data is for 1 unit and this data is for 10,000 units. How we can compare? Very simple, guys. We can't compare because इधर आउटपुट हमारा कितना है 1 यूनिट है, इधर आउटपुट हमारा कितना है 10,000 यूनिट है. So we can't compare it. So now how to compare it? Very simple, guys. 1 unit require 2 liter. It means when talking about the target set, for every 1 unit, we require 2 liters of milk. So since we have manufactured 10,000 units, the work was supposed to be completed in 10,000 liters. These 10,000 units are my actual output. For every 1 unit, we require 2 liters of milk. So it means what? For every 10,000 units, we should have used how much quantity? 20,000 liters of milk. मतलब 10,000 यूनिट्स बनाने के लिए हमें 20,000 लीटर्स ऑफ मिल्क यूज करना चाहिए था. बट हाउ मच क्वांटिटी वी कंज्यूम? 23,000 quantity we consumed. It means what? 3,000 extra quantity we consumed for manufacturing these 10,000 units. So these 3,000 liters is what we call it as adverse for the term. So in simple terms, check whether the output is same or not. So herein this data is given for 1 unit of output and the actual data is given for 10,000 units of output. So are these two figures comparable? No. We have to make them comparable. If for every 1 unit, 2 liters of milk is required. For 10,000 units, how much quantity of milk will be required? Very simple, 20,000 liters of milk will be required. But how much milk we actually consume? 23,000 liters of milk extra we consume. So 3,000 extra liter what we consume is what we call as adverse. So to make the things comparable, my output should be the same. So herein in this case, this data is given for how many units? 80 units of output. Bhai 60 units lag raha hai, to output bhi to 80 aa raha hai. Herein 700 units we are consuming, but we are getting an output of 700 units. So are these two figures comparable? No, because this data is for only 80 units of output and this data is for 700 units of output. So herein, if we want more output, we have to use more quantity of raw material. So I hope you guys are thorough with what I want to explain. Very simple, guys. To compare two things, your output should be the same. Sushil Kumar Bari, can you please repost your answer? I don't think your answer is correct. Yes, Srujana. No calculation. Again, don't talk about calculation in standard costing, Alok. It's a very simple concept. So my point is, are these two figures comparable? No, because this 2 liter is what? For 1 liter, for 1 unit of ice cream. Since we are manufacturing 10,000 units of ice cream, so how much liters of milk was supposed to be used? 1 unit, 2 liters. So 10,000 units, 20,000 liters. So kitna milk use karna chahiye tha? 20,000 liters. And how much milk we actually consume? 23,000 liters. So how much extra we consume? 3,000 liters. So this 3,000 liter is what we call as adverse. Now, so herein when talking, let's get back to this question now. This data, that is 60 units and 40 units is for what? 80 units of output. But herein my actual output is how much? 700 units of output. So are these two figures comparable? No. So we have to make them comparable. we have to revise this data. We have to revise this budgeted data to calculate the variances. जैसे हमने 1 unit 2 liter को revise किया था 10,000 units to 20,000 liter. Similarly, we have to revise, we have to convert this data of 80 units into 700. What we have to do? We have to convert this 80 unit data into 700 units. जैसे हमने 1 unit data को 10,000 units data में revise किया, similarly we have to revise this 80 unit output data into 700 units output data. That is my output. So I hope you guys are thorough with what I want to explain you guys. Now, those who want to copy this explanation can please copy. I'll be erasing this part. Very good, Miss Ansari. Very good. Perfect answer. Now, my point in this question, how to revise the data. So we do have to calculate the revised budget or revised standard. Quantity, price, and amount. We have to convert this 80 units data into 700 units data. So can anyone tell me how much quantity was supposed to be used for X? How much quantity was supposed to be used for X for 700 units? Can anyone tell me? Very good, Prachi Kapoor. Your answer is correct. Can anyone tell me how much quantity was supposed to be used for X? It is given in the question that 60 units are required for 80 output. So how much for 700? Just the same concept you have to apply, wherein 2 liters milk, 1 unit. 2 liters of milk, 1 unit. So for 10,000 liters, how much? Can you guys tell me the answer? I've got answer from Shivani, Akarma, Ansari. Your answers are correct. Okay, I've got answer from Mr. Aslam, incorrect answer. Alok Shiblani, incorrect answer. Nikita, incorrect answer. Pranav Vashist, your answer is correct. Jyoti Jha, correct answer. Prachi Kapoor, incorrect answer. Super incorrect answer. इतना बड़ा फिगर कहाँ से लेके आ गए आप? Sushil Kumar Barik, incorrect answer. Shri Sai Srujana, very good, correct answer. Mr. Aslam, your answer is incorrect. Dhyanesh, waiting for your answer, guys. Okay, Kavita Chandak, very good. Your answer is correct. Sraboni, Alok, Dhyanesh, Vinayaka, Piyush, Khushi Surotia, your answers are correct. Very simple, guys. You have to apply the same concept, that is 2 liters milk, 1 unit. So how much for 700? So when talking about X, 60 is my input for 80 output. So how much will be for 700? 60 units input for 80 output. Vedant Vora, very good. Your answer is correct. Shreya, correct answer. Lokesh Kumar, correct answer. Shivani, correct answer. Jyoti Jha, correct answer. So 60 for 80. So how much for 700? 525. I'm using the similar concept, that is 2 liters of milk for 1 unit of ice cream. So for 10,000 units, how much? 20,000. So guys, कोई formula नहीं है, simple से mathematics है. I use the same concept, that is 2 liters milk is required for 1 unit of ice cream. So for 10,000 units, how much milk will be required? 20,000. So I'm using the same concept only. Similarly for Y, again, 40 for 80 output. 40 kgs for 80 units of output. So for 700 units of output, how much? 350. Prachi Kapoor, please check your answer, my dear. Vinayaka, yes, Mr. Aslam, but thereafter you posted some different answer, that is 933 you posted. That's why I said incorrect. Very good, Priyanka. Very good, Dhyanesh. Very good, Sraboni. Miss Prachi Kapoor, your answers were incorrect. Please check the concepts once again. Very simple concept, Prachi. 40 input for 80 output. 40 input hota hai for 80 output. So for 700 output, how much? 350. Very good, Nikita. Very good, Sujna. Very good, Sushil. So now it means what? It means what? For manufacturing 700 units of output. Prachi Kapoor, hope you are thorough with what I have discussed till now. Prachi Kapoor, are you thorough with what I have discussed till now? How to calculate 525 and 350, Prachi? So now let's proceed further. It means what? What this 525 is, or what this 350 is. That this much quantity was supposed to be used for 700 units. 700 units के लिए कितना quantity use होना चाहिए था? 525 kg. And for manufacturing 700 units, how much quantity that was supposed to be used for Y? 350 units. This quantity was supposed to be used. It means what? 5 plus 3, 875. So to manufacture 700 units, how much quantity was supposed to be used? 875 units. That is 525 for X, 350 for Y. Total input is 875. If we calculate 20% of 875, we'll be getting 175 as normal loss, and my output will be 700. So this much quantity was supposed to be used. Now further, at what price? Again, 525 units were supposed to be purchased at the rate 5. Similarly, when talking about Y, 350 units were supposed to be purchased at the rate 4. So how much cost was supposed to be incurred for X? 2625. How much cost was supposed to be incurred for Y? Very simple, 1400. So how much cost in aggregate was supposed to be incurred? 4025. So for manufacturing 700 units, how much cost was supposed to be incurred? 4025. And how much cost is actually incurred? 4300. Just give me 2 minutes break, guys. Need some water. So guys, for manufacturing 700 units, how much cost we were supposed to incur as per the target set? 4025. But how much cost we actually incurred? 4,300. It means how much extra cost we incurred? 275. And since my actual cost is more than my target cost, so that's why we call it as adverse for the company. So how much cost we were supposed to incur? 4025. How much cost we actually incurred? 4,300. So how much extra we incurred? 275. So since it is the actual cost is more than the target cost, so we'll call it as adverse. And since it shows the difference between the target cost and actual cost, so that's why we call it as cost variance. And this cost variance is calculated for material, so we call it as material cost variance. Alternatively, we can calculate the material cost variance as that how much quantity was supposed to be consumed for X, 525 kgs. At what price it was supposed to be consumed? At the rate 5. But when the actual results were out, the actual quantity used was 700 at the rate 4. Similarly, for Y, how much quantity was supposed to be used? 350 kgs were supposed to be used for manufacturing 700 units at the rate rupees 4 per unit. However, the actual quantity used was 300 at the rate 5. So this is 175 adverse and this is 100 adverse. So this is how I got 275 adverse. Yes, Priyanka. Anyone having any conceptual doubts? How I've calculated this variance? Why this variance? If you have any doubts, you guys can please post your query. This table is very important, guys. And this chapter is also very important. In every attempt, you will see a question on standard costing. Very good morning, Anurag Pandey. Anyone else having any queries? Mr. Aslam, Alok, Srujna, Miss Prachi Kapoor, any doubts? How come material 5 Y is favorable? 350 into 4 is 1400. 1400 minus 1500. That is the cost of Y we predicted is 1400. However, the actual cost of Y is 1500. It means 100 adverse. Jyoti Jha. So guys, when talking about cost variance, 525 kgs were supposed to be used at the rate 5. However, 700 kgs were used at the rate 4. So this is how we got a difference of 175. Similarly, in Y, 350 kgs were supposed to be used at the rate 4. However, 300 kgs were actually used at the rate 5. So this is how we got a difference of rupees 100. So now Dhyanesh is well aware that there is something wrong in our department. So Dhyanesh के पास एक picture तो आगे, let's assume that these figures are in thousands. So now Dhyanesh has got a picture that there is something going wrong in my department. Now there is an overall material cost variance of 275, assuming these figures are in thousand. So now he is well aware that there is something going wrong in his department. Now he has to figure out that who is the person who is the major culprit in his department. So there is a loss of 275 detected in his department. Now he has to find out that उसकी डिपार्टमेंट में कल्प्रिट कौन है, किसकी वजह से ये नुकसान हुआ है. So this also standard costing technique help us to figure out. Since my actual data is for 700 units, so all the variance will be calculated using 700 units, my dear. Actual performance को evaluate करना है, standards को evaluate नहीं करना है, actual performance को evaluate करना है. So now, Dhyanesh has to figure out that who is the person responsible for this loss of 275. Now guys, this loss of 275 is what? Due to change in quantity. See, 525 की जगह 700 use हुआ, 5 की जगह price 4 rupees हुआ. So this loss of 275 is due to two factors. That is, first one is the price and second one is the quantity. So there are two factors that contributes to material cost variance. First one is the price and second one is the quantity. First one is what? The price and second one is the quantity. Now guys, when talking about the price, who is responsible to purchase? See, this material was supposed to be purchased at the rate 5 and 4. However, the material was actually purchased for rupees 4 and 5. So there is a price variance due to which there is some deviation in the cost variance. Now, who purchased the raw material? Very simple, guys. This, when talking about the difference in price, the purchase manager is responsible. When talking about the price part, the purchase manager is responsible. And when talking about the consumption of quantity, the production manager is responsible. Or we can say production head. We can say production manager, that is more than sufficient. So there are two factors that are contributing this to this material cost variance, that is the price and quantity. When talking about the price, the purchase manager plays an important role. What is the role of purchase manager? To purchase the raw material at a competitive price. And when talking about the quantity consumed, ki bhai 525 units ही consume होना चाहिए था, but we actually consume 700 units. So the extra consumption is of 175 units. So who is the person responsible for it? The production manager. So now let's proceed further. So let's proceed further. Now what Dhyanesh will do, he has to figure out that who is the major culprit. So now let's say Dhyanesh called his purchase manager, let's say Prachi. Prachi is the purchase manager of this company. And what is her duty? Very simple, to purchase the raw material at competitive price. So Dhyanesh called Prachi that, ma'am, I think first and the foremost thing, there is a loss in our department, that is the material department, and there is a loss of 275, and I think you are the person responsible for this loss of 275. Now Prachi says, sir, just let me justify you that I'm not the culprit. Now, very important, guys, listen to the statement of Prachi, what she explains. So since Prachi is the purchase manager, guys, listen to her explanation, listen to her statement. There are no formulas in standard costing. It's only the cost, it's only the concept and the story-based concept. So guys, please focus on what the statement of Prachi is. So now Prachi is the purchase manager. She is responsible for purchasing the quantity at a competitive price. So now let's see what is the statement of Prachi. Now Prachi says, sir, you advised me, my company advised me to purchase raw material at the rate rupees 5 per unit. Okay. I repeat again, see the statement, listen to the statement of Prachi. My company advised me to purchase raw material at the rate 5, that is X raw material at the rate 5. However, I purchased this raw material at the rate rupees 4 only. As instructed, I purchased 700 units of raw material. Similarly, for Y also, I was supposed to purchase it for rupees 4, but yeah, the market was not good and I purchased it at the rate rupees 5. And the actual quantity I purchased is 300. So when talking about my overall performance, herein I made a profit of 700. I understand there is a loss of 300, but my overall profit is 400. That is favorable for the company. Very important, guys. When talking about the statement of the purchase manager, very simple, guys. The beauty of the purchase manager is what? To purchase the raw material at a competitive price. What is the duty of purchase manager? To purchase raw material at competitive price. So herein, when talking about X, the X was supposed to be purchased at the rate 5. However, it was purchased actually at the rate 4 into how much quantity Prachi actually purchased, 700 units. Similarly, the raw material that was supposed to be purchased at the rate 4 was purchased at the rate 5. And how much quantity she actually purchased? 300. So this is how we got a variance of 400 favorable. Now, guys, very important. Many students are thinking that sir, आपने 525 or 350 क्यों नहीं लिया? Why actual quantity 700 and 300? So, guys, this is the quantity, that is the revised standard quantity is what? That was supposed to be used. That was supposed to be used. So Prachi, that is the purchase manager, is nowhere aware about that how much quantity was supposed to be used. Her performance will be evaluated on the basis of how much raw material she actually purchased. अगर 700 और 300 यूज हुआ है तो किसी ने परचेज तो किया ही होगा. That उसके बगैर तो आप यूज नहीं कर सकते. So when talking about the performance of Prachi, or for the talking about the when evaluating the performance of a purchase manager, the actual quantity she purchased is 700 and 300. So she will evaluate her performance only on the basis of actual quantity she purchased. This work, that how much quantity was supposed to be used, it is not his job. Purchase manager का job नहीं है कि quantity कितना purchase करना था. नहीं, परचेज मैनेजर का जॉब नहीं है कि क्वांटिटी कितना कंज्यूम करना था. द जॉब ऑफ द परचेज मैनेजर इज व्हाट? टू परचेज द रॉ मटेरियल एट द कंपिटिटिव प्राइस. Purchase manager can simply say that I have received an email that you have to purchase 700 units of X, 300 units of Y. That's it. So he is following the purchase manager is following the instruction as received. Purchase manager is not at all concerned about कितना यूज होना चाहिए था, कितना यूज हुआ. The purchase manager is concerned only about how much price I was supposed to pay for raw material and how much price I actually paid raw material. How much price I actually paid for the raw material into the quantity as instructed to purchase, that is 700 and 300. ये actual quantity जो आ रहा है ये purchase किया होगा तभी आ रहा होगा. So this is how we got the evaluation report of purchase manager. That is that 5 rupees में purchase करना था, 4 rupees में purchase किया. How much quantity I purchased? 700. Similarly, 4 rupees we were supposed to spend but I actually spent 5 rupees, and as instructed, I purchased 300 units. So this is how I got a variance of 400 favorable. Now, guys, क्या price पे purchase करना चाहिए था और क्या price पे purchase किया? So this is what we call it as difference in price. So we call it as material price variance. क्या प्राइस पे परचेस करना चाहिए था, क्या प्राइस पे हमने परचेस किया. सो दिस वेरिएंस help us to figure out the difference of price, that is what is the budgeted price and what is the actual price. So we in this variance we calculate the difference in price, so that is why we call it as material price variance. So this material price variance evaluates the performance of the purchase manager, that whether the purchase manager did his job or not. So if you guys have any doubts, If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post why actual quantity, why budgeted price, why actual price. Please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, guys. Giving you 2 minutes time to please post your queries. Any doubts? Anurag, Dhyanesh, Prachi? Priyanka? Sraboni, Vinodini, any doubts? Manoj Kumar Thakur, sir, actual price per unit of X is ₹1 less than, therefore it is favorable. Yes, Manoj Kumar, it is favorable. 5 minus 4 into 700. So 700 is the favorable and 300 is adverse. Sraboni, Prachi, any doubts? Why I have taken actual quantity? Because purchase manager is not at all concerned about kitna use karna chahiye tha aur kitna use kiya. Purchase manager is only concerned about what the price, that kya price pe purchase karna chahiye tha aur humne kya price pe purchase kiya. We were supposed to purchase the raw material at the rate 5, but we actually purchased at the rate 4. And how much quantity we actually purchased? Very simple, 700. Why I am not taking the revised quantity? Because this is not the work of the purchase manager ki kitna quantity use karna chahiye tha. The purchase manager is only concerned about the price part. Prachi, any doubts? Priyanka, Mr. Sankaran, Sushil Kumar Barik. I was expecting a query from you. I really appreciate this, Prachi. Sir, if purchase is at a standard, then there will be neither adverse or nor favorable. So see, Prachi, if the budgeted price is ₹5 and actually she purchased it for ₹5, so there will be no variances, neither adverse nor favorable. Now let's proceed further. So why we are taking actual quantity in material price variance? The only reason is that the purchase manager is not at all concerned about how much quantity was supposed to be used. Purchase manager is concerned only about the price part. As far as the quantity he has purchased, he has received the instructions from the upper management that you have to purchase so and so quantity. So the performance of the purchase manager will be evaluated according to the actual quantity purchased. So let's proceed further. Now let's move toward the production manager, who is responsible that how much quantity was supposed to be used and how much quantity is actually used. So let's proceed further. Let's say when talking about the production manager, Mr. Aslam is the production manager. Now what is the responsibility of Mr. Aslam? To check that the quantity, that is the raw material, should be used in the best possible way. What is the duty of the production manager? Optimum utilization of raw material. So now Prachi's work is over. When talking about there is a loss of 275 in the material department. However, Prachi has explained well, that is the purchase manager has explained well that, sir, I am not contributing to any loss. Even though I have further contributed towards profit that is of 400. It means what? There is something going wrong in the production department wherein the company has an overall loss of 275. However, the purchase manager has made a profit of 400. It means what? How much is the loss contributed by the production department? 675. Because the overall loss is 275, the purchase manager has contributed towards profit of 400. So it means what? There is something going wrong in the production department wherein there is a loss of 675. 675 adverse, 400 favorable is 275. Now we have to figure out that what went wrong. So let's start, guys. This is the question. That's it. That is the budgeted data and the actual data. Rest all I have prepared it while solving the question. So when talking about from examination point of view, this data will always be given in the question. That is the budgeted data and the actual data. We have to first prepare the revised standard and then proceed further with the solution. So it means what? The production manager has contributed to a loss of 675. So now, let's start, guys. Now, after the purchase manager leaves the office, Mr. Dhyanesh called Mr. Aslam, who is the in charge of the production. Now, he explained Aslam that, Mr. Aslam, I think you are the person responsible for this loss. Since your friend has contributed towards profit of 400 and my overall company is down with a loss of 275, it means what? Your department is responsible for this loss of 675. Now, Aslam says, sir, let me explain you and let me brief you that actually I am contributing or not. So let's start, guys. Now, here when talking about the work of the production manager, very simple, guys. They talks about kitna quantity use karna chahiye tha aur kitna quantity actually use kiya. So when talking about X, how much quantity was supposed to be used? 525 kg. How much quantity was actually used? 700 kg. I repeat again, how much quantity was supposed to be used? 525. How much quantity was actually used? 700. Similarly, when talking about Y also, how much quantity was supposed to be used? 350. How much quantity was actually used? 300. Now, when talking about, we have to explain this in monetary terms. So, at what price we should multiply? Very simple, guys. 5 and 4. Now, why the standard price, not the actual price? What actual price represents the work done by the purchase manager? What actual price represents the work done by the purchase manager? Since purchase manager is not at all concerned about the work done by the production manager, so again, production manager is not at all concerned about the work done by the purchase manager. They are concerned that hame to yahi price pata hai, that is 5 and 4. We don't know the purchase manager. Our duty is to use the raw material and we are using it in best possible way. When talking about explaining it in monetary terms, we'll be using 5 and 4 because our performance cannot be judged on the basis of work done by the purchase manager. So herein, 5 and 4 will be the standard price that will be taken to evaluate the performance of the production manager. So this will be 200 favorable and 875 adverse. So net will be 675 adverse. Now, in this variance, when talking about the evaluation of the performance of the production manager, in this variance, we calculate the difference in the quantity. That how much quantity was supposed to be used and how much quantity we actually used. How much quantity was supposed to be used? 525 kgs. How much quantity we actually used? 700 kgs. So it shows the difference between the usage. So when talking about usage, it's calculated. We have calculated what we call it as material usage variance. What we do in material usage variance, कितना raw material use करना चाहिए था, कितना raw material हमने use किया, into the standard price. Why standard price? Because the performance of production manager cannot be evaluated on the basis of work done by the purchase manager. That's why I have taken 5 and 4, not 4 and 5. If you guys have any queries in this part, you guys can please post your queries. There are two important points. The first point is why I have taken the actual quantity, and herein why I have taken the standard price. These two are very important points. If you have any conceptual queries in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Mr. Sri Charan, any doubts? Raboni, Prachi, any doubts? Dhyanesh, Pranav, Alok, Lokesh, Srujana, any doubts? Yes, Manoj Kumar Thakur. Can you be please more clear that what these both parts called? Alok, I'm not getting what you're asking. When talking about this part, it shows we have calculated the price variance. That is the performance of the purchase manager. Material price variance. That is क्या price पे purchase करना चाहिए था, क्या price पे purchase किया into actual quantity. Why actual quantity? I have already explained. Similarly, in usage variance, how much quantity was supposed to be used minus how much quantity actually used into standard price. Why standard price? I've already explained. Yes, it is also a variance, Prachi. I'll be discussing this part, Dhyanesh, don't worry. Yes, Piyush. Okay, Vedant Vora, sir, why, can you please explain why you have taken standard price? So when talking about standard price, why I have not taken actual price? Now, actual price, this is 4 and 5, represents the work done by the purchase manager. So, अगर आप production manager का performance evaluate करना चाहते हैं, तो how can you refer the rates that are due to the results of the purchase manager? See, very simple, production manager is not at all concerned about the work done by the purchase manager. Just like purchase manager is not at all concerned about how much quantity was supposed to be used, how much we actually use. So in that case also, how much price the raw material was actually purchased, the production manager is not at all concerned about. His performance will be evaluated on the basis of the price that is given by the management. That's it. So these two are the independent persons and the independent department. So we can't interchange the work done by the others. Sushil Kumar Barik, in case of material price variance, why you are taking the actual quantity? As I said, Sushil Kumar, कितना quantity use करना चाहिए था, purchase manager is not at all concerned about. Purchase manager is only concerned about the instructions received from the management. When talking about the instruction received from the management, अगर 700, 300 उनको use करना है, they must have instructed the purchase manager that you have to purchase 700 and 300. अब कितना यूज होना चाहिए था, परचेज मैनेजर इज नॉट एट ऑल कंसर्न अबाउट. I'll be discussing this part also. Kavita, don't worry. Vedant Vora got it, sir, means production manager was just following the instruction to use the standard price quoted. No, Vedant, very simple. Production manager is not at all concerned about the work done by the purchase manager. This 4 and 5 price represents what? The price which is actually paid for purchase of raw material by the purchase manager. अगर हम लोग इधर 4 और 5 लेंगे, तो we can't evaluate the performance individually. Kavita, still a few more points are left. So thereafter, we'll pass the final verdict that who is the person responsible for the same. Anyone else having any doubts, queries, guys? Anurag, any doubt? Sushil Kumar, Manoj Kumar Thakur, any doubts? So guys, let's take a break of 10 minutes. Then we'll proceed further with the remaining part of the story. So, and to figure out that who is the person actually responsible for this loss to the company. Okay, there is the sir did not get the concept why we have taken actuals for price variance. So Sri Sai Srujana, very simple, my dear. When talking about the purchase manager, he is concerned only about the price at which he has to purchase. As far as the quantity, what he has to purchase, he is following the instructions. He is वो सिर्फ क्या कर रहा है, इंस्ट्रक्शंस फॉलो कर रहा है कि दिस मच क्वांटिटी यू हैव टू परचेज. अब वो क्वांटिटी अपने घर पे लेके जाए मैनेजमेंट, या फिर एक्चुअली रॉ मटेरियल कंज्यूम करके फाइनल प्रोडक्ट बनाए, they are not at all concerned about. Purchase manager duty ends when he purchased the raw material. So whether this raw material is consumed or not, this is not the responsibility of purchase manager. So when talking about the evaluation of the performance of purchase manager, very simple, his performance will be evaluated on the basis of the quantity actually purchased. कितना क्वांटिटी परचेस करना है उसे ईमेल पे राइटिंग में आया होगा कि यू हैव टू परचेस सो एंड सो क्वांटिटी. So if you have any doubts, you guys can please post. Yes. Varsha, I'm just taking a random example, my dear. Yes, Dhyanesh. Don't worry, the suspense will end soon. Still 2 more variances are left. So let's take a break of 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. We'll be back after the break and we'll proceed further with the remaining part of the material variance. So let's take a break. Admin sir, please put a break of 10 minutes. Back, guys. So now let's proceed further with the remaining part of the investigation of the material department. Just give you a quick sum up of what I have discussed till now. Herein was we calculated the cost variance, that is 525 units that we were supposed to use for at the rate 5, and how much quantity we actually use, 700 units at the rate 4. Similarly, for Y also we did, and accordingly we calculated the material cost variance. Now the material cost variance is because of the two factors, that is the quantity and the price. When talking about the price part, purchase manager is responsible. So when talking about the price part, we calculate material price variance. क्या price पे purchase करना चाहिए था, क्या price पे purchase किया, into actual quantity. Why actual quantity? Because purchase manager has received the instructions that you have to purchase so and so. Now, out of the purchase quantity, how much they consume, it is not his job. Now, moving towards the next part, when talking about the quantity part, the production manager is responsible. That is, kitna quantity use karna chahiye tha, kitna quantity use kiya. So we do calculate material usage variance. Since this actual price represents the work done by the purchase manager, so we will not take the actual price in this case, we will take the standard price. So now from till now, the things are clear that there is something going wrong in the production department. That is, the production manager is responsible. So what Mr. Dhyanesh will do, Dhyanesh can't fire this guy because he is at the senior post. However, he will give instructions that please rectify the mistakes and figure out that in your department, who is the person responsible. So in your department, who is the person responsible? So what Aslam will do, again, there are two juniors who are working in the production department. There are two more persons who are working in the production department. Now, guys, here there is a change in quantity uses. That is, instead of 525, we use 700. Instead of 350, we use 300. So there is a change in quantity. Now, guys, there are two more persons involved in the production department. The first one is the engineer. Now, when talking about the engineer job, his role is what, his duty is what, to maintain the adequate mix of the raw material. So when talking about the work of the engineer, his duty is what, to maintain the mix of the raw material. That is, as advised by the management, there should be a mix of 60:40 for the raw material what we have to use. I repeat again, as advised by the management, there is a mix of raw material that is recommended, that is 60:40. Whatever the raw material you are supposed to use, that should be in the ratio of 60:40. So the first person is the engineer who is responsible to maintain the adequate mix of raw material. So let's say Mr. Abdul is the engineer. Now, what Aslam will do, he will call Abdul that, see, there is something going wrong in our production department. 1 second, guys. So there is something going wrong in the department, I think, and I think you have contributed to this loss of 675. So now let's see the explanation of Abdul, who is the engineer. Now, the engineer, as I said, that is responsible to maintain the mix. What engineer is responsible for? To maintain the perfect mix of raw material. So here as advised by the management, the perfect mix is 60:40. So the actual quantity that was used is 1000 kgs, and this should be in the ratio of 60:40. मतलब ये जो actual quantity 1000 use हुआ है, it should be in the ratio of 60:40. That is, it should be 600 and 400. However, the actual mix was 70:30. That is 700:300. Again, these are the subordinates of the production department. They have nothing to do with the actual price. So herein also we'll be taking the standard price, that is 5 and 4. So herein the variance is 500 adverse, and here it is 400 favorable. So overall the engineer has contributed to a loss of 100 adverse. So I repeat again, guys, when talking about the work done by the engineer, he is responsible to maintain the mix, that is adhesion. He is responsible to maintain that the adequate mix. So this variance shows what? The difference in the mix. That is, क्या mix होना चाहिए था 600:400, क्या mix हुआ 700:300. So this is called as material mix variance. What it is? It is so out of this loss of 675, the loss of 100 is what? Due to the work done by the engineer. So it means the maximum loss is contributed by this person, that is 575. The production department has made an overall loss of 675. Of this, 100 loss is the 100 loss is due to the work done by the engineer. However, the remaining loss, ये जो 575 का remaining loss है, this person is contributing to this loss of 575. Now, who is this person? The ultimate supervisor who is involved in day-to-day activity. So I repeat again, the last part is the ultimate supervisor who is involved in day-to-day activity. Now, Aslam called this person and says that our company has suffered a loss, and I think all your friends has given enough of explanation and justification. Now the last part that is left out is you, and I think you are the culprit. Now guys, see the explanation of this person. Very important, guys. The last variance is material yield variance. Now these 700 units are supposed to be manufactured by using how much quantity of raw material? 875 kgs of raw material. We are supposed to get an output of 700 units by using 875 kgs of raw material. But for these 700 units, we consumed actually how much? 1000 kgs of raw material. So how much extra material we consume? 125 kgs raw material we consume. How much extra raw material we consume? 125 kgs extra raw material we consume. I repeat again, guys. For manufacturing these 700 units, कितना raw material use करना चाहिए था? 875 kgs overall. But for manufacturing these 700 units, we actually consumed 1000 kgs of raw material. That is 125 kgs extra we consume. Now, this is the quantity that is consumed extra. Since we have to explain it in monetary terms, so we have to use standard price. Now, this 125 kgs can be what? X also and Y also. So, price कौन सा लेना? 5 लेना, 4 लेना, या 4.5 लेना, या better weighted average price लेना? So, the best approach is use the weighted average price. That is 4025. That is weighted average price. Very simple. 525 into 5. 350 into 4, the total 4025 divided by 875. So we'll get 575 adverse. I repeat again, when talking about material yield variance, Kavita Chandak sir, how 600 and 400 quantity calculated? So Kavi, let me explain this part, then I'll get back to the material mix variance. So when talking about material yield variance, very simple guys. How much raw material was supposed to be used to manufacture 700 units? 875 kgs. How much raw material we actually used? 1000 kgs. So how much raw material extra we used? 125 kgs. ये 125 kgs X भी हो सकता है या Y भी हो सकता है. So which price to take? Very simple guys. We'll be using the weighted average price. Alternatively, you can calculate material yield variance with 2 to 3 more ways, but this is the easiest approach and the best possible approach. That's why I have used this approach. So at the end of the day, the person who is responsible to this loss is 5. That is the person who is in charge for the day-to-day activity, the person who actually puts the raw material in the machine and get the final output. So this is the person responsible for this loss of overall loss of the company, that is 275. Now, if you guys have any doubts in this part, that is what is material yield variance, what is material mix variance, you guys can please post your query. I'll be addressing the query of Kavita now. 600 and 400 quantity, how calculated? So Kavita, as advised by the management, what is the adequate mix? 60:40. It means what आप जो भी raw material आप input करते हैं, it should be in the ratio of 60:40. So actual raw material we used is how much? Actual raw material we used is how much? 1000. This 1000 actual raw material, it should be in the ratio of 60:40. Therefore, 1000 into 60/100 and 1000 into 40/100. So this is how I got 600 and 400. As I repeat again, guys, the 60:40 is the mix that is recommended by the management. So this should be in the ratio of 60:40. Sorry, as advised by the management, the adequate mix is 60:40. It means whatever the inputs we are making, it should be in the ratio of 60:40. My actual input is how much? 1000. It should be in the ratio of 60:40. So 1000 into 60/100, 1000 into 40/100. This is how I got 600 and 400. So any doubts? Aslam, Varsha, Shreya, Sushil Kumar, Vedant, Vinayaka, Piyush, Raboni, Shivani, Prachi. Waiting for your queries, guys. So when talking about the mix variance, this should be the mix of these 1000 units of raw material. ये जो 1000 raw material what we actually use, it should be in the ratio of 600:400. But my actual mix was 700 and 300. So herein we will get the material mix variance adverse, that is 100. Any doubts, anyone? Shivani, any doubt? So now this person is the culprit. He is the person responsible for the major loss, who is actually putting the raw material in the machine and getting the final output. So now, when talking about the entire story, Dhyanesh is the head of the material department. When talking about the purchase manager, Prachi is the purchase manager. When talking about the users department, who is responsible for maintaining who is responsible that the raw material should be utilized in best possible way. So Mr. Aslam is the production manager. He has two subordinates, Abdul and Mr. X. So herein from this report, we can figure out that Mr. X या तो रॉ मटेरियल मशीन में यूज करते वक्त घर पे लेके चला गया, या there is a loss of raw material resulting in an overall adverse variance of 575. So this person is the culprit. When talking about the overall analysis report, the work done by the purchase manager is superb. He has achieved the target and his results are above the target. So when talking about the work done by the purchase manager should be promoted for his job. When talking about the work done by the production manager, the company can't remove the production manager. However, they can issue the guidelines how to act and how to rectify the mistakes. So this person cannot be removed. When talking about the work done by the engineer, yes, there was a slight fault from the engineer end, but somehow, somewhere, engineer can say, sir, 60-40 management recommended. I changed the mix to 70-30 to improvise the product, to improvise the product so that we can build a goodwill and reputation. So this variance somehow, somewhere, he can justify, but there is no justification of this variance, wherein the ultimate person who puts the raw material in the machine is responsible for this loss of 575. Either there is a misutilization of raw material in this case, or there is a theft of raw material. So this person needs to be fired immediately. $575 is the amount. We are considering all the facts, Varsha. Lokesh Kumar, can you be please clear? So this person need to be removed. This person need to be promoted. This person should be issued guidelines. Somehow, somewhere, this person can escape from any sort of firing or something like that. So this is all what about material variances. Now, there are formulas that are given in the study material. So let me discuss these formulas. When talking about material cost variance. Yes, Shivani. So when talking about material cost variance, very simple, my dear. When talking about material cost variance, what we did, this much quantity should be purchased at this price minus this much quantity should be purchased at this price. So it means what will be the formula for material cost variance? Very simple. This is what my standard quantity, this much quantity should be purchased at standard price. However, we purchased actual quantity at actual price. So this is the formula that is given in the study material. So this is the formula that is given in the study material, that is standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price. Now, how this formula is derived, I have already explained. When talking about the work done by the purchase manager, what his duty is to purchase the raw material at competitive price. So one second, guys. Admin sir, can you please mute, sir? Ashok sir. अशोक सर, वो सर को आप म्यूट कर दीजिए ना. आई थिंक आई एम द होस्ट. मैंने कर दिया म्यूट. It is not tricky now, guys. Let's get back to the conclusion part. So herein, when talking about the formulas that are given in the study material, this quantity was supposed to be used at so and so price. So standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price. When talking about the price variance, it talks about the change in price. क्या price पे purchase करना चाहिए था हमें? Standard price पे. And at what price we actually purchased minus actual price into actual quantity. Why? Because the performance of the purchase manager is to be evaluated on the basis of the quantity he actually purchased. So standard price minus actual price into actual quantity. Similarly, when talking about the usage, कितना use करना चाहिए था? Standard quantity. How much we actually used? Actual quantity. Into the standard price. Why I have standard price? I have explained it more than 10 times. When talking about the mix variance, what should be the mix? That is my standard mix. That is 60:40. What is the actual mix? Actual quantity into standard price. When talking about the yield variance, as I told you guys, there are 2 to 3 ways to calculate yield variance. So I'm not discussing the various ways to calculate yield variance because it will add on your confusions and काफी confusion हो जाएगा. So better stick to the approach what I have taught you guys. But yes, for your reference, I'm writing the formula that is given in the study material, that is standard quantity minus standard mix into standard price. There are more ways, I repeat again, there are more ways to calculate yield variance using normal loss also. Apart from this, using the ratios also. So better ignore it. This is the best possible way. As far as formula is concerned, it is given in the study material, that is standard quantity minus standard mix into standard price. So now guys, how to present the solution in exams. Now guys, as I told you, the costing is completely based on concepts. There are no formulas in costing. So here many students were facing the problem, that is, sir, how to remember the formula, how to memorize the formula. I suggest better learn the concepts, understand the concept, practice few questions. Once you are thorough with the concept, no need to memorize the formula. But when talking from examination point of view, very simple. You have to write material cost variance, standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price. This part, that's it. You can present the solution in this chart way also. Both the approaches are correct. But yes, I advise you to write the formulas before solving the question, because better not to give any chance to the examiner to deduct marks. So the best possible approach is material cost variance, the formula and the explanation. Now, how these formulas are prepared, I have already discussed. So I hope you will not find any sort of difficulty while solving the questions. Now, if you guys have any queries, you guys can please ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. When talking about the final verdict, this person is the culprit, he should be removed from the job. In simple terms, this standard costing is what? Suppose if you are ill, if you are not well, what you will do? You will go to the doctor. Now, what doctor will suggest you? Better go for a blood test. Better go for a blood test. So, this standard costing is what? This standard costing is the diagnostic report. जैसे आपका blood test report आता है, the doctor see the blood test report that yes, there is something wrong with WBC count or RBC count or platelet count or eosinophil count or basophil count, whatever it is. So doctor check all these counts to figure out that what is wrong in your system. So similarly, in standard costing, it provides us the diagnostic report that where there is, I mean, हमारे system में कहाँ गलत है, where there is, I mean, something going wrong in our system. So it's just like a diagnostic report of the company. It helps us to figure out that where there is going wrong in the organization. So once it is detected, we can fix it up. So similarly, when doctor figure out that there is something wrong with your eosinophil count, he will advise you the management. Similarly, in this diagnostic report, we can figure out that this person is the culprit, so better fix it up. So in short, standard costing is just like a diagnostic report of the company to figure out that galat kahan pe ho raha hai, so that we can just find out the mistake where actually the wrong things are going on, we can fix it up. It is standard price, my dear. Yes, Manoj Kumar, don't worry, my dear. I've taken standard price only. So guys, when talking about material cost variance, Saurav Saha, sir, can you please explain the material yield variance? Once again, I'm facing difficulty. So Saurav, there are various ways to calculate material yield variance. Whatever the way you want, whatever the method you want to use, the ultimate answer should be correct. So when talking about the material yield variance, the way I have calculated, see this 700 units is my output. I have to manufacture 700 units. Now these 700 units were supposed to be manufactured by using 875 kgs. That is my budgeted input. ये 700 यूनिट्स जो है हमें 875 इनपुट से बनाने थे. But when the actual results were out, these 700 units were manufactured by using 1000 units of raw material. That is, it means what? 125 kgs we used extra. अब ये 125 kgs x के भी है और y के भी है. So the point is which price to take, x or y. So the point is the best approach is used weighted average method. There is an alternate way also, better divide 125 in the ratio of 60:40 and apply ₹5 to the 60% and apply 4 to the 40% part. You will get the same answer. So this is how the material yield variance is to be calculated. Up to 2 decimals, my dear. Now, guys, one more point I want to discuss in relation to the material cost variance. Let's say my budgeted data is for 80 units. My actual data is also for 80 units. I repeat again, my budgeted data is also given for 80 units. My actual data is also given for 80 units of output. So the point is, no need to calculate revised standard. Why? We have to revise the standard only when the output is not same. If the output is same, if the budgeted output and actual output is same, why we will calculate revised standard? Because the budgeted output and actual output are same. So revised standard need to be calculated only when there is a difference between the budgeted output and the actual output. So when talking about material variance, the basis of comparison is what? My output. So if my budgeted output and my actual output is same, no need to calculate the revised standard. So when talking about how to present in exams, first prepare this table. Second, write material cost variance, the formula that is standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price, and then solve all the variance accordingly. Write the formula, solve the question. How these formulas are prepared, I think you guys need no more explanation. I hope you guys are thorough with what I have discussed till now. Yes, Dhyanesh. So let's sum up what we have discussed till now. Herein my budgeted output is 80, my actual output is 700. So herein, since my output is not same, I have prepared revised standard. How come? 60 input for 80 output, for 700 output, how much? 40 input for 80 output, so for 700 output, how much? So this is how we have prepared the revised standard. It means what? 700 units के लिए ये सब होना चाहिए था, but 700 units के लिए ये सब हुआ. First and the foremost thing, we calculated material cost variance. That is, this much is the cost that was supposed to be incurred, that is 4025, and this is the cost that is actually incurred, that is 4300. So 275 adverse. Now, the next point, material price variance. Very simple. At what price we should have purchased? At the rate 5. at what price we actually purchased for. So 5 minus 4 into actual quantity, that is 700. Why actual quantity? I have already discussed. Similarly, in usage variance, again, how much quantity was supposed to be used minus how much quantity we actually used into standard price. Again, there are two subordinates of the usage department, wherein the first one is the engineer, who is responsible to maintain the mix and the quality of the product. So herein, when talking about the mix part, as suggested by the management, the mix should be in the ratio of 60:40. It means whatever the inputs we are making in, it should be in the ratio of 60:40. That is, when talking about the actual input, it is 1000, it should be in the ratio of 600:400 minus the actual input, that is 700:300 into the standard price. And last but not least, yield variance. Overall, how much raw material we should have used? 875 kgs minus the raw material actually used, that is 1000 kgs into the weighted average price. So first and the foremost thing, I request you to please copy the explanation further. Still, if you have any doubts, the concepts part, you guys can please post your query. I request you not to memorize the formula. Better learn the concepts. You will be able to solve any type of questions on material cost. Standard costing, material variance. So no need to memorize the formula. You will find difficulty while solving one or two questions. But thereafter, once you are done with one or two questions, I assure you guys, you will never forget the concepts of standard costing. Try to practice questions more on standard costing using the concepts rather than formulas. There are few questions, tricky questions the examiner can ask wherein you can't apply the formula. If you are thorough with the concept, then only you can solve few tricky questions. So better go with the concepts rather than the formulas. So giving you 5 minutes time to please post your queries, further copy this explanation in detail and the presentation part. It is very important, guys. By using concepts only, Shrujana, I'll be discussing one or two questions on missing figure also, don't worry. Kavita, hopefully all your queries are resolved. Alok and Pranav, any doubts? Kavita Chandak, hopefully your query is resolved. Yes, Kavita, in this question, the output is not same. Here in my budgeted output is 80, my actual output is 700. So that's why I have prepared the revised standard. Thank you so much, Akarma. Yes, Vedant, if you score 60 or more marks in any of the paper, you will get the exemption, my dear. Pranav Vashisht, don't go with what is plus, what is minus. In simple terms, Pranav, very simple. How much quantity that was supposed to be used to manufacture 700 units? 875. It means 875 हमें use करना था. And how much we actually consume? 1000 kgs. That is 125 kgs we consumed extra. So this is loss for the company. Don't ignore plus or minus. Since you are learning the concept, plus minus आप ignore कीजिए. Just think practically that here in this case, 125 kgs are used extra. So that's why it is adverse for the company. Don't learn in this way that sir negative aa raha hai to adverse, positive aa raha hai to favorable. Think if the actual cost is more than target cost, then it is adverse. If you are going for one group also, and if you are scoring 60 plus marks in any of the paper, you will get the exemption, Saurav. Don't worry. Pranav, hopefully your query is resolved. Sraboni, any doubts? Prachi Kapoor, where are you, my dear? Any doubts? No more questions on 60 above marks. Yes, Dhyanesh. I request you guys to please copy this solution. Any doubts, Prachi Kapoor, Lokesh? So here in material variance, we have first calculated the material cost variance. That is standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price. Thereafter, material price variance and material usage variance. Again, two parts, material mix variance and material yield variance. As mentioned in the question also, we were calculating the net total. So herein, the total of material price plus usage will be what? The material cost variance. So I repeat again, total of material price plus usage will be what? Material cost variance. Similarly, material mix plus yield will be equal to what? Material usage variance. So you guys can calculate material usage variance too. You guys can check your answers that whether the total of mix plus yield is equal to usage or not. So I repeat again, material price plus usage, you can cross tell your answer again. That is material price plus usage will be equal to material cost variance. And similarly, material mix plus yield will be equal to material usage variance. You can cross tell your answers also. Now let me give you a small question. Wherein, let's say the budgeted data is given. Wherein the budgeted data is given that for manufacturing one unit, two raw material is required, that is A and B. A required 10 kgs and B required, let's say, 20 kgs. Further, the price is also given, let's say 8 and 10. Actual output was 100 units and the quantity and price is given. Let's say for 100 units, 1,100 raw material was used. And here in 2,200 kgs were used. The price was 7.5 and 9. The price was 7.5 and let's say 12.5. This is the question given now. You guys have to solve this question. You have to calculate material cost variance and material usage variance and material mix variance. So question for you guys, my budgeted output is 1 unit and the raw material required for A, raw material required is 10 units of A, B is 20 units. My actual output is 100 units and the quantity actually consumed is 1100 kgs of A and 2200 kgs of B. Let's keep it 2300 kgs of B. Now guys, please post your answers. Waiting for your answers, guys. You have to calculate material cost variance, usage variance and mix variance. Srujana, no normal loss is given in the question. A very important point, guys, if normal loss is not given in the question, better ignore it. The main thing is the input and output. Herein the input is given and output is given. I have got answer from Alok Shivlani. I've got answer from Alok Shivlani, Jyoti Jha, Dhyanesh. अरे भाई सबका आंसर अलग अलग आ रहा है. Everyone answer is different. Roshan Thomas, sir, will you please validate my statement that revised standard is the actual output in standard ratio and revised standard quantity? I'm using these words revised standard or revised standard quantity. I'm using these words revised standard and revised standard quantity interchangeably. When talking about the revised standard, it means what? We make them comparable. Herein my output is of 1 unit and herein my output is 100 units. So when we revise the budget, we call it as revised standard or revised budget or revised standard quantity. I have got answers from many of you guys. So here, when talking about this question, I've got so many answers. So when talking about this question, herein the budgeted output is of 1 unit and the actual output is 100 units. It means what? 1 unit requires 10 kgs of raw material. So 100 units will require how much kgs? 1 unit 10 kgs. So 100 units, how much kgs? Very simple, 1000 kgs at the rate 8. So this will be 8000. Again, 1 unit 20 kgs. So 100 units, how much it will be? 2000 into 10, that is 20,000. So how much cost that was supposed to be incurred? 28,000. And how much it is actually incurred? 37,000. So the correct answer is 9,000 adverse. Now let me check. Piyush Chaurasia, your answer was correct. Very good. I've got answer from Dhyanesh also. Your answer was correct. Jyoti Jha, your answer was incorrect. Alok Shivlani, your answer was incorrect. So now when talking about material cost variance, since our master chart is ready, the table is ready, we can solve any of the variance. So when talking about material cost variance, very simple. That is how much cost that we were supposed to incur, 28,000. How much we actually incurred, 37,000. So what is the difference? 9,000 adverse. When talking about material price, and material usage variance, how much quantity was supposed to be used for A 1000? How much we actually used? 1100 into my standard rate, that is 8. So this will be 800 adverse. Similarly for B also, how much quantity was supposed to be used? 2000 kgs. How much we actually used? 2300 into 10. That is my standard price. So this is how we'll get 3000 adverse. So 3800 adverse. When talking about the mix variance, my actual input is how much? 1100 and 2300, that is 3000. This should be in the ratio of 1:2. This 3400 should be in the ratio of 1:2. I think it was 2200. Our revised standard calculation, this 3000 should be in the ratio of 1:2. So 3000 in the ratio of 1:2, that is 3 into 1, that is 1133 is to 2267. This should be the ratio. So herein, when talking about the mix variance, my standard mix was 1133 and 2267. However, my actual mix was 1100 and 2300 into my standard price, that is 8 and 10. So this is how the standard mix variance will be calculated. You guys can calculate the answer. Further, when talking about, okay, I've got answer from Dhyanesh. There is a query from Sujana, sir. Please explain how a revised standard is calculated. So Sujana, 1 unit output require 10 kgs of raw material. So for 100 units, how much quantity of raw material is required? Very simple, cross multiply. So 1 unit, 10 kgs, 100 units, 1000 kgs. So this is the way we have to solve the question. The time is running. It's already 9:35. So we have covered the concepts in detail. Most of you were able to answer. Still few answers were incorrect, but that's okay. So now homework from my side, try to solve all the questions relating to material variances. In the next session, we'll start with labor variance. Plus, we'll be discussing few more questions on material variance. So that's it for the day, guys. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Yes, your answers are correct, everyone. So thank you so much for your time and patience. We are done for today. Let's meet up on Monday with the labor variance part. So do solve the questions. Do practice the question on material variances without fail today only. That is, first solve the same question what I have discussed and then try to solve 2 more questions using concepts. I assure you guys, before we start the second session, I want you guys to be perfect with the concept. And I assure you guys, if you solve 2 to 3 questions using concepts, I assure you, you will be able to solve any type of questions thereafter. So thank you so much for your time and patience. Thank you so much. God bless you. Sir, done.